Hello and welcome to the 15-minute show, which is a brand new show as part of the Arsenal Therapy podcast. We'll be broadcasting twice a week, so make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. This week, we'll be discussing all Arsenal-related news, and that will go on twice a week. It will be very focused on transfers during the summer window, and I'll be your host. I'm Adam Keys as part of the Arsenal Therapy podcast. And today we're joined by Farhan, also known as Gunner since '96, who was the founder and main man behind the Arsenal Therapy Pod. Farhan will be joining us today, and we'll have various different guests jumping alongside me each week. And obviously, Farhan's going to be a main feature of the show. So welcome, Farhan. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me. This is really, really exciting because it's something that's been in the back of my mind for a good few years. Before we started the Arsenal Therapy podcast, I was, doing streams on YouTube, and then I've decided to do the pod. So back again, full circle. So yeah, really good to be here with you, Adam.
Really great to have you. Today's episode, we're going to start with some quick fire questions. These will be a feature of every show and will also be a feature of the main pod, which comes out generally on a Monday morning. We tend to record every Sunday night. So again, if you're not a subscriber there, make sure you follow the pod. So that's the Arsenal Therapy Pod. Today, we're going to hit Farhan with some 4 quick fire questions based around the latest news and contracts, transfer news. And Farhan's going to answer with one word answer, either good or bad. And once we get through those, we're going to discuss each in slightly more detail. However, as you've guessed, this show will last 15 minutes. So we're going to wrap everything up quickly. And it will be very quick, short discussions around each bit of news. So first up, Declan Rice, good or bad?
Good.
Next, Ivan Fresneda.
Bad?
Reiss Nelson.
Good.
Kai Havertz.
Bad. Very bad.
That's some very definitive answers there. So yeah. I really like that. We will start with Declan Rice because that's the hottest topic right now.
Yeah.
West Ham just won the first trophy in 43 years. And amazingly, first thing on everyone's mind was, have they had a better season than Arsenal? So I think that shows that we are absolutely massive and Arteta has rattled everyone this season. But after the game, Declan Rice gave a very much a diplomatic answer, I would say, where he said he doesn't know what's happening. But one thing that he did remind everyone of was that he has 2 years left in his contract, not one. As The Athletic reported, when he agreed the deal, there was an option of an extra year. Anyone that thought West Ham weren't going to activate that was completely bonkers, because there is no way they're going to lose out on the sell-on value of a player like Rice. And I think Rice, as their captain, who clearly loves the club, was always going to do right by them. So today we are seeing the likes of Romano, Moncal, and so on reporting that Arsenal are ready in their first bid. And Romano reported straight after the game that Arsenal remain the favourites, even if Bayern are in for him. So this is one that's going to really twist and turn us all summer. But where do you stand on it? What do you think? What's your gut feeling around Declan Rice? Do you think we'll get it over the line?
It's difficult to say because of the history that we've got with our main targets. We don't seem to get it over the line, and we always have to seem to settle with the second best, which hasn't been it hasn't been all bad for us, especially when you look at the likes of Trossard and others alike. So, but it's undoubtedly clear that he's an incredible footballer. He's had a very consistent season despite playing for West Ham, who've struggled for the most part. He's stuck out like a sore thumb. He's kind of shone through, and there's a great deal of maturity when it comes to Declan Rice and the way that he performs. He's got a very mature set of legs with him, despite being so young. And I really appreciate his passion and desire, and when he's playing, you can really see that he's carrying the squad, and that's something that for a fan, it's really difficult to grasp the idea of confidence and whether someone is motivated or not because when you're playing at that level, when you've got the privilege of playing in the Premier League and at that playing at that standard, you would think every week the players would be 100% motivated, and there's no bigger privilege in the world than to be playing at a Premier League stadium. But we have to remember that these guys are human beings as well, and there's so many other factors. But he is someone who every week just seems to be playing as if it's his last game.
Yeah,
And
100%.
just really, really good as well, like ability on the ball, technically really gifted, and his leadership abilities. I mean, we're losing someone like Xhaka, who is probably one of the very few mature leaders in the dressing room. I feel like with someone like Declan Rice, it seems like it's a like for like. He has the assertiveness on the pitch, but again, it's difficult to say what will happen. Whether Arsenal will cough up the amount that West Ham will demand for. We just saw that Jude Bellingham went for about 89 mil. Is that right, in pounds?
Yeah, so it seems to be 100 million
euros
basic and in euros, and then the bonuses can be 30%. So it can rise to 130 million from, I think it was Ornstein tweeted that yesterday. So, but I'm hoping that sets the market. What is the maximum you would go to for Declan Rice?
So if Bellingham was going for about 130 mil euros, which is what, 110, let's say, in pounds. And he is the most demand. He's the most in demand. He is generational. You'd think someone like Declan Rice would fall just under. And I'm kind of glad that transfer happened, because, as you said, it set the benchmark. It kind of levels out the playing field, and it gives us leeway in the negotiating room to use that as a precedent almost. So I would imagine West Ham will ask for about 90 to 100. But I would be surprised if Arsenal pay that amount. I think we should try and aim for about 80-ish.
So
which again,
the reports today are indicating Arsenal's opening bid will be around 90. So it's I don't think West Ham will sell for less than 100, but I also think it's one of those where there are times where you overpay for a player you need in a certain position. And I think Declan Rice ticks so many boxes that I think there's a lot of coaching that can be done with him. I still think that we're only seeing a very, very small level of his development so far. He's never played for an overtly tactical coach, a real positional coach, and he's got all the assets in his game. And even he's not a player that's played in possession-based teams, which is something that he will have to adapt to at Arsenal. But if you look at his numbers, he has a high number of touches and passes every game for his team that aren't playing high possession football. And as the season's gone on, we've seen Paqueta rise to a higher level. And Rice has been performing at a higher level as a result of the likes of Paqueta. Imagine you're putting him in a team with Thomas Partey, with Martin Odegaard, with Martinelli, Jesus, Saka, all those technically gifted players around him, higher up the pitch, playing higher up. You've got Saliba and Gabriel behind him, and Zinchenko popping up. So what I really like about him is the kind of the low risk element of his game, where he can just keep ticking and he can ping the ball all over the park. But I think what we wouldn't see with Rice is the little flicks and tricks we see from Thomas Partey. The ability to manipulate space, manipulate the ball. Rice is much more of a Rodri type in that he'll keep it moving. And I think whilst he's not going to be the metronome type player that Rodri is, where it's just like pass, 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 touch, touch, and keep it going, Rice can bring that level of just simplicity to Arsenal that is a really, really difficult part of the game, and players like that make it look so easy. And it's why we think one-touch football is basic, and actually it's an extremely difficult part of the game that involves incredible on and off the ball ability and the ability to read the game, and again understand space. So they're the elements of Rice's game that I think we can develop. But in terms of the fee, I do believe that we could do with a striker this summer, but it's not going to be our number one priority. Other teams are going to be chasing a goalkeeper. The midfield is the position that we really need someone.
Do you think that there might be a fear of the price tag weighing on him? Does will the Nicola Pepe effect be something that he will need to be concerned about, or Arsenal fans, do we need to be concerned about that? Does he strike you as the type of person to have that weigh on him?
I don't think so. I think he's a very strong-willed character. I think he's been waiting for this move for a long time. He's been carrying West Ham, and the pressure was on his shoulders last night in that game, and he led his team to a European trophy. So I don't fear the price tag weighing heavily on him, and especially in the modern game when transfers fees are just got so crazy. I think it's with Pepe. I think Pepe was a victim of the time as well and the style of player he was, but I don't have that worry about Rice. But we will move on to the next target. So Ivan Fresneda. So a few days ago, following the relegation, his release clause was halved. So he's available for 20 million euros. Now, you said you thought he would be a bad signing. I'm keen to hear your reasoning on that one.
Well, look, I don't know a great deal about Fresneda, and I haven't watched him too much this season. But just from looking at some of the stats and just the whole idea of signing an 18-year-old to play as a backup on the right hand side. His team's just been relegated. I understand he's got a lot of football under his belt, but this would be a bit of a risk for Arsenal to take. I mean, I don't know how they would go about utilizing him, whether he does go straight into the first team or whether they do spend a year developing him. But it seems to me that right now what we need isn't another 18 to 21-year-old. Right now, on that side of the pitch anyway, we need someone who has a little bit more experience, who is happy to play 25 30 minutes to come off the bench, or almost like a Jorginho type character, type profile, sorry. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like for the next phase of our development as a club, we need to be filling in those gaps. We need to be a little bit more shrewder, and we need to be a little bit more cutthroat. But he seems like a really exciting prospect. What about you? What are your thoughts on it?
I don't know a huge amount about him. I don't typically watch the lower end of La Liga. I don't watch a huge amount of La Liga anymore at all, just because my main interest is the Premier League. But I think the interest is clearly strong in Fresneda. It's not just Arsenal. A lot of Europe's top clubs are looking at him. So there clearly is talent there. I do agree with you to an extent about his age, and I have the same worry myself. I guess it comes down to what the priorities are for Arsenal. For me, if it was spending 20 million euro on him, which I think is roughly 17 million pounds, to enable us to bring in a Moises Caicedo and Declan Rice, then absolutely, let's go and get that done. But at the same time, if the release clause is there to be met and Arsenal haven't done it, perhaps the thinking is there with the club as well. So, but I'll go on to our next one, Reiss Nelson's new contract. So how do you feel about that?
All but confirmed. As far as I know, I feel good about it because this is a player who I've been kind of ranting and raving about for large parts of last season. He's clearly proved himself. He's good enough. And if it's the case that he's again happy to play a similar role to what he played, which was pushing Saka and Martinelli for those places, getting the best out of them, but also providing the impactfulness that he brings when he comes off the bench. There's going to be a lot of football next season, with the Champions League back. There's going to be a renowned kind of energy and optimism. This season, it was very much a case of testing the waters, seeing whether the plans in the summer worked, and it did. And so now we go into the next season with a real belief and a real ambition as well. Back in the Champions League, we want to be challenging in the Premier League again. Everyone's going to be playing at optimum level. So you would hope that someone like Reiss Nelson will carry that. Again, I use those words: motivation and enthusiasm into the next season, so that he can really push. And these boys grew up at Arsenal, so it's really surprising for me when I see someone who's come up the ranks, who has an opportunity but decides to leave. Obviously, the understanding or the situation that they're in is paramount to what happens to them in the very short careers that they have. So they have to make that really tough decision. But someone like Nelson, who's been through the ups and downs, he's had that really shaky moment. Is it going to happen? Is it not? Is it going to work out? And he's come out through that rough patch, almost like a diamond in the rough. So yeah, again, I think he's proven himself. I think we know what to expect with someone like Reiss Nelson, and yeah, really, really good news.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. So next, to wrap things up today, Kai Havertz. So you said bad sighting. I agree. The sources come from Alex Goldbridge, who is part of the byline and self-proclaimed Chelsea loudmouth. So I don't know how much truth there is in any of these rumors. Personally, I just don't see it. Havertz is a player that I've long struggled to see what he's really good at. I think he's got a lot of different assets to his game. At times, he can have some very nice finishes in his locker. He's got a decent touch. He's got a decent passing ability. He can carry. He can kind of do a bit of everything, but a lot of nothing. So he's someone. If I was picking him up on a cheap deal, yes, absolutely. But we know Chelsea aren't going to do that. Real Madrid are reportedly interested, and there's been up to 70 million quoted for him. So I just don't see any truth in this, and I would be very, very surprised if Arteta moved for him.
Yeah, he's I think he's tainted goods now. I think there was a time where the potential was there, the ability, you could see a young player. He's been there 3 years, and it really shows when you're surrounded around the high caliber of players that he is around the camp at Chelsea, and the managers that he's been for as well. It really shows and reflects on a player's mental attitude, I guess, which is the most important thing, really, especially when you come to Arsenal. You're going to be expected to be performing at peak levels whilst also maintaining a healthy amount of kind of mental well-being. When times get tough, is he someone who's capable to, pull his socks up and get stuck in? I don't think so.
No, I agree with that. So I think we're both in agreement there that Kai Havertz isn't the man for us. So that will commence the show today. So it's great to kick this off with you, Farhan. And as I said, we will try and keep this show as close to 15 minutes as possible every week. We have gone slightly over today. However, I would just like to remind everyone to like, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. These videos will go out twice a week, and we will have myself and Farhan featured quite regularly, and we will have other guests along the way too. So please hit that subscribe button and make sure you follow us for more Arsenal-related news. And of course, check in weekly for the full Arsenal Therapy pod, which you can find on all major streaming platforms. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining.
Cheers.